territories. We are grateful to be allowed the opportunity to learn, work, and live on Treaty 11 lands within the Witchem settlement area and the lands of the Inuvik final agreement. The quorum, we have Councillors Harder and Devlin on Zoom, and everybody else is present. Item number 2, adoption of the agenda. We do have an addition, item 4.2, the Arctic Energy Alliance, and we will be having in camera tonight. Before we start, I'd like to recognize 3 new people at the town. Stephen Odiasi, I believe I'm saying that right, is our Director of Corporate Services. Welcome, Stephen.
Welcome.
Welcome. Laura Lee Joy, Infrastructure Part, welcome to the town. And welcome Ethan Soltis, the Special Events Coordinator. Welcome, Ethan. Welcome. Item number 3, declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Councillor Wayne.
Page 5, 6, and 7.
Thank you. Item number 4, delegations, presentations, or petitions. 4.1, we have the RCMP report. I don't believe there's anyone here to present. Any comments? Nothing. We'll go to item 4.2, Arctic Energy Alliance. I believe Mr. Height has a presentation for us. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Mayor Wood, councillors. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my first time attending a Town of Inuvik Council meeting, so always nice to check these things out. When I'm usually on the road, I'm a bit of a geek that way, and I'll check out community access channels. I was in Maui once a few years ago watching the council meetings every night, and my wife had a lot of fun making fun of me. So pleasure to be here. Pleasure to share some information with all of you about Arctic Energy Alliance, the services we provide. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Norm Como, who's a project coordinator with the Arctic Energy Alliance out of our Fort Simpson office. As some of you may know, it's been a few months since we've had a staff person here in Inuvik. So we decided that myself and a couple staff members would come up this week, turn on the lights in the office and hold some public engagement events. So you can expect to see us around town through Friday. We'll be putting up posters and advertising some of that as well. I was very happy to hear of all your new hires. That's very exciting. I think we all recognize the challenges that capacity poses for all of us. So I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to knock on wood and say that we have an offer out to a regional coordinator here in Inuvik, and we're hopeful that we'll have some signed paperwork and they'll be starting early in the new year. So fingers crossed. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about Arctic Energy Alliance for those who aren't familiar, and I know you guys have a pretty full agenda, so I'll try to make the presentation as concise as possible. We were established in 1997, so last year we celebrated our 25th anniversary. Originally, the territorial government in the late 90s decided to consolidate a number of energy-related funding and advice programs under one roof and to create a non-profit society that would be a little more flexible as a public-facing service delivery agency. So Arctic Energy Alliance was born in 1997. At the time, we started with a small contingent of about 4 staff in Yellowknife. Since that time, we've expanded quite a bit to the point now where we've established regional offices in Hay River, Fort Simpson, Betchco, Norman Wells, and here in Inuvik. When I joined the organization a little over 5 years ago, one of the things that I quickly learned was how important those regional offices are and how important our regional staff are in making sure that our programs and services are being delivered equitably across the territory to all 33 communities. So that was very, very positive. Staffing has been a challenge, as I've already mentioned, but we are working towards getting back up to capacity in all of our regional offices, including here in Inuvik. Just a bit about our funding situation. So as we know, we just came through a territorial election. Typically, the Arctic Energy Alliance receives the bulk of its funding from the territorial government. With the new government coming in, we're still waiting to hear sort of what that means on a go-forward basis, but I'm quite confident that the work that we do is valued by the government of Northwest Territories, and I expect that funding should continue. Shortly after I started, we signed an additional contribution agreement under what's called the Low Carbon Economy Fund, which is a federal climate change mitigation funding program. And that effectively doubled the budget of our organization for the period for the lifetime of that agreement. That agreement will come to an end March 31st of 2024. So we're currently in the final fiscal year. But we've received indications from the territorial government that there's going to be a second version of that funding coming from the federal government. So we anticipate that what I'm going to talk about tonight will be able to continue kind of operating under the guidelines and the rules that we've had for the past several years. So that means more funding for projects, more support for communities. Next slide, please. So I thought I'd just recap a few projects the town of Inuvik has completed recently with support from Arctic Energy Alliance. So your City Hall, the building we're in now, had a building envelope upgrade. We provided $50,000 in incentives towards that project a couple of years ago. Air sealing doors, another $50,000. That was in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. And we provided $9,000 for LED retrofits in 2017. In addition, we've completed targeted energy audits of, I believe, all of the municipal facilities now in the town of Inuvik between 2016 and 2020. If we are missing any, I'll get to this a little bit later in the presentation, but we'd be happy to come back and do any other energy audits you might have. Next slide, please. So our programs fall typically either on the energy efficiency and conservation side or on the renewable side. So we have a community government building energy retrofit program. That's the one that the town would have accessed on that previous slide for those projects. And we provide rebates up to $50,000, up to 50% of the total project cost. We've delineated between ourselves and the Department of Infrastructure. They have additional federal funding. And so for larger scale projects, community governments can also go to the government of the Northwest Territories for, if you had a $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 project, they would be able to provide 75% funding towards that. And again, they are expecting that funding will be renewed beginning next fiscal year. I mentioned the energy audits that the town has had done. So we have a number of technical staff on our team who can travel to communities. We've had a group up in Fort McPherson last week doing about 6 or 7 buildings there as well. But if you do have new facilities that are coming online, or if there are smaller facilities that we may not have audited before, then we're happy to kind of engage, depending on our own capacity, to come back and work on some of those things. I know you're heading into budget season, which I certainly don't miss as a recovering politician. But we really encourage communities when they're doing particularly their capital planning, and I think I heard an infrastructure clerk, to take the audits that we've done for your facilities and to set them beside your capital plans, because oftentimes there will be things in those capital plans for which there's a more energy efficient option. So let's say you have to replace a whole bunch of pumps. There's much higher efficiency pumps out there than what we've had conventionally. So it's a good tool to make sure that the dollars you're putting into your infrastructure and into your capital spending are actually resulting in lower lifetime costs because they're using energy more efficiently than they otherwise would. The energy audits are quite an involved process, but we're always available to provide advice as well. So if somebody from the town has a question about a particular facility, something that's challenging with a heating control system or a mechanical system or anything else, you're always welcome to contact us, and we can connect you with one of our technical staff who may be able to help out in some regard. Next slide, please. So I mentioned we've got the programs on the efficiency side. We've also got a renewable energy funding program. So typically this is solar, photovoltaic, small scale wind, and increasingly biomass. We're seeing a lot of uptake in biomass now. Again, this program will fund projects up to 50% of the project cost, up to $50,000. And again, if there are projects that are well above $100,000, then the Department of Infrastructure has support for those kinds of projects as well. So this program has been very, very popular. Certainly Inuvik, not necessarily the town, but residents and businesses within the town have taken advantage of this program. Biomass is something, as I said, we're seeing increasing popularity in. And part of that, I believe, is the application of the carbon tax starting April 1st to heating oil. So we're starting now to see that people are seeing that show up on their bills, and biomass, and typically when I say biomass, we're referring to wood pellets. There's no carbon tax applied to biomass because it's considered a carbon neutral fuel source. So we are seeing a much higher interest in biomass for space heating. This year, or next year, I guess technically, for the third year in a row, we'll be putting on an online conference called Biomass Week. And basically these are half-day sessions. It's completely online. The first year we did it 2 years ago, we had about 75 or 80 participants. Last year we had over 300. And we get an international audience for this, and people who participate in panels from all around the world. So this Biomass Week is really all about everything from small scale maintenance of a pellet stove to how to design a big district heating system on biomass, how to establish heat sales agreements and those sorts of things. So if you keep an eye on our Facebook page or our website, and we'll send things through the NWT Association of Communities as we get a little bit closer to the dates. Free registration, people can pick and choose what days or what sessions they want to participate in. And I would invite and encourage anybody who's interested in biomass and potential in the north to participate in that Biomass Week. Next slide, please. So I recognize that, I realize I've heard some news recently about your Santa Claus parade, and capacity remains an issue for all of us. And we recognize that community governments are no different. And so, understanding that having a staff member try to do something off the corner of their desk often won't result in a successful project implementation. Arctic Energy Alliance has actually begun offering project and coordination and management services up to a value of $15,000. So if a community is interested in doing a project, but they simply don't have the capacity to kind of carry it out themselves, we have staff that we will provide up to that value in their time, and they can look after, crafting RFPs, reviewing contractors, doing scoping visits, managing the actual work that it needs to take place, and then doing follow-up visits to make sure that things have happened properly. So we peg that value both for project coordination services, but also for building audits. So if a community does have buildings that they would like audited, they basically provide us a list of those buildings, we provide a quote back, and if it's within that $15,000, then we cover the entire cost of providing that service and those reports. So I wanted to mention that just because I know there's a lot of communities that are struggling to find people to get projects implemented. So that's something that we're pleased to offer community governments. Next slide, please. The last thing I wanted to mention, we've got some new rebates beginning this year. We do have electric vehicle rebates. However, only hydro communities are eligible for those rebates. They are $7,500 for electric vehicles. And I know with your new wind turbine here, you guys are slowly working your way off diesel and LNG and whatever else is in the mix now. But for the moment, those electric vehicle rebates are only available in hydro communities. However, we have introduced new rebates this year for electric bikes, electric ATVs, snowmobiles, and boat motors. And those are eligible across the board, across the territory in all 33 communities. So the e-bike rebates have been extremely popular. We basically blew through the budget for that in the first weekend that those rebates were available at the start of April. But we've gone into deficit to be able to provide some more rebates. That program is now closed for the year. We provided, I think, about 85 or 90 rebates for electric bicycles through that program. And the latter three items there, there's not a whole lot that's commercially available yet in that realm. However, we did just get our first application for an electric snowmobile. So there's a company out of Quebec called Taiga, and there's an individual in Yellowknife who's purchased one of them and now had it delivered. So we'll be providing a rebate for that. There's still a little bit of skepticism, and understandably so, around electric on the land transportation. You can't exactly head out 300 kilometers and tow a bunch of solar panels with you. But there are applications, and I'm not sure if the town itself has, snowmobiles within its fleet. But for things like municipal enforcement, for wildlife officers, people who are not going too far afield, it's an interesting technology to check out. So if anybody's interested in that, we'll be featuring that snowmobile that was purchased by a Yellowknife resident recently, and you can learn more about that as well. Next slide, please. And that's all. Thank you very much, and happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? SAO Travis?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious to know what the range on the snowmobiles are.
Those ones, I wish I could tell you. I'll look it up and I'll email you
How do
guys.
you spell it?
TAIGA. Yeah, it's a company under Quebec. I believe I have, for some reason in my memory, I have 200 kilometers. But yeah, look it up before you go out and land on one.
Thank you. Anything further?
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mark.
you very much.
Moving on, item number 5, public question period. Anything from the public? Nothing. Item 6.1, adoption of the minutes of November 20th and 22nd, 2023 council meetings. Any comments? None. Item 7, action items. 7.1 is the action items list. Any comments? New business, 8.1. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gowans.
Just a quick question, with respect to, I have my notes here a second ago. It's the, ACON or ACOM, they were doing the inspection report on the buildings, abandoned buildings. Has that arrived at your desk yet?
Councillor Gauss, that's item number 5, condemned buildings, and we were hoping that they were gonna send us a response actually by end of day, and Director Pilaya has an update.
It's a rather large document, so they couldn't send it at the end of the day, and we were trying to convert it to Adobe, hoping to get it to us before the meeting. However, Wednesday, it should be here for review.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Wainwright.
I think we missed the public question period here. Do you want to come up? It's up to you guys, but if she wanted to come talk to council.
Go back to public question period. Do you want to introduce yourself and turn your microphone on?
It's Edna Schottler from Northwest Water. I was here about a bill from June. It was for 2536. And from then on, it went to 17 and 14, 16, 16, and 1800 when I came in October to put money towards the bill. I was met by the SAO and he told me that they didn't need my money. So I took my check and left. So now I'm up to $7,000, but I'm just wondering how come it's so high.
SAO Travis.
I hope I'm pronouncing your last name, Ms. Shatler, correctly.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to apologize if you interpreted my non-acceptance of your payment. I believe there's been an ongoing problem with your account since I started working here earlier this year. And I've actually had it checked by our utility crew. I believe they came out to your shop to take a look at your processes or your plant or how you process your water. I think that we need to take another look at your account, maybe send them out again and take another reading. And also, we are waiting for budget approval on Wednesday night for a complete new meter system to make sure that all meters are accurately capturing everybody's consumption. So, again, apologies if you feel that your money's not being accepted. It is being accepted, but I don't want to accept it until we have an actual proper reading of what your account balance is.
Yeah, so now I'm $7,000 behind, like how am I supposed to catch up to that? In June, you don't know the water problems we were having here in town. In June is one of the dirtiest times, the water, the ice is going out. And ever since then, I've been having silt problems. I buy these membranes and they're like $500 a membrane. And I went through about 4 since June. And I supply the town with water, elders and everybody, you know. But I can't afford to pay this bill, and if I can't afford to pay them, I'm gonna have to shut it down. We made about 3 trips to the town office, and the last time was when it wouldn't take my check, so.
Well, again, I think it's a matter of getting to the bottom of why your consumption is so high, and we do have some of the team from Utilidor crew here. I would ask Mr. Candy maybe to answer some of the questions about the system that you've observed there and what some of the recommendations might be to ensure that the consumption is in check.
Yeah.
But they did come before. And,
So on July 20th, we got a call to go
Could you
check
turn
her.
your microphone on, David? Sorry.
So on July 20th, we got a call to go to her establishment and check her water meter. Everything was good at the water meter. We looked at our machine and seen a lot of water going out into the sewer. So we got on the phone with her supplier for that machine. They walked us through a bunch of scenarios and stuff, and the filter on her machine wasn't working properly, so it was rejecting a lot of the water. So that's why her water bill was high.
So was I actually the filter system at Northwest Water that was at fault?
Yeah.
Any further comments? Yeah, I'm going to ask administration in particular to work with you on this Northwest Water problem, and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other comments? Moving on, we're back to item 8.1, reallocation of funds for the street sweeper. The recommendation will be on Wednesday night that town council grants approval for the reallocation of funds from the MSC addition to be used for the renovations of an existing change room, the purchase of a street sweeper, and additional 2024 capital budget items. Any questions? Seeing none. 8.2, MSC solar and battery storage project. This is the long anticipated start of this project. It was originally initiated almost 2 years ago. Go into detail. I'll let SAO Travis further explain what this is about. SAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. So an organization by the name of Solvest I believe they're out of Whitehorse, actually worked with the town from very day one of this project and assisted the town in its application for getting this funding. So not only did they work with the town throughout the last 2 years on getting us the successful grant application, but they've also been very instrumental in the product and service that they offer. And since they've been an onboard partner for this project over the last couple of years, it's really hard now to put this particular project out for tender when they're the actual expert on the project. So we would like to sole source this to Solvest, as the administration has just described, because of their input throughout the life of the project to date. We have ensured that as they arrive on site and start procuring services and goods and contractors and labor, they will source as much as possible from the town of Inuvik so that we can keep the project as local as possible. So thank you for your consideration on this project.
Questions? We'll vote on that Wednesday night. 8.3, as and when required plumbing and mechanical, the recommendation is to award to the low bidder, Plum Crazy Mechanical. Any questions? None. 8.4, as and when required electrical controls, we only had one bidder, it was Plum Crazy Mechanical. Of course, the recommendation will be to award it to them. Any questions? 8.5. Councillor Wainman has left the room. Is the as and when required utility piling repair. 2 bids were received from Harder Enterprises and Northwind Industries Limited. The low bidder was Harder Enterprises. So the recommendation is the contract be awarded to Harder Enterprises. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just for point of order, is Jesse on Zoom? Yes. So did he declare on this item too?
Not that I'm aware of. Councillor Harder? Not there.
I don't see Tony on the top.
Jesse's on the beside Tony. Is there? Okay.
No, he's hung up.
Maybe just for Monday when it's voting time. There he is.
Councillor Harder, did you wish to declare a
I can hear. Yes, I'll declare a conflict.
Okay. You want to leave the room?
I will leave the room.
You just can't join the discussion.
Okay, the recommendation is the contract to the low bidder, Harder Enterprise, for the tendered price of $26,500. Any comments? We'll vote on that on Wednesday. Councillor Harder can come back now. Item 8.6, the as and when required road fuel supply. The only bidder was Northwind Petroleum, the amount of $21,980. Of course, the recommendation will be to award them the contract. Any questions? Seeing none. 8.7, as and when required road and ditch maintenance. Again, only one bidder, Northwind Industries, for $98,280. The recommendation will be to award them the contract. Any questions? Seeing none. We can ask Councillor Wainman to come back. Eight point eight is the approval of the interim operating and capital budget. Of course, we're recommending approval. Any questions, comments? Seeing none. 8.9, property tax auction. Again, the list of properties is attached and posted at the town office and I believe other places in town. Of course, the recommendation would be to go ahead with the auction on March the 7th. Any questions? Seeing none. Item 8.10 is the appointment of the auctioneer, and the recommendation is that Michael Travish be the auctioneer for the 2024 tax auction. Any comments? Seeing none. Bylaws 9.1, sale of property. Is that Shell Lake? I won't go into the details. Total purchase price $76,190.48 to Mariola Mew. Any questions? Seeing none. We'll get first and second reading on Wednesday night. 9.2, the annual borrowing bylaw, municipal line of credit for 1.5 million, first and second reading. Any questions? Seeing none. 9.3, the annual borrowing bylaw for the corporate credit card, first and second reading for $250,000. Any comments? None. 9.4. Is first reading of the Town of Inuvik Community Plan. Any comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. I just had a question, and I tried to Google it, but I would love an explanation. What is an off-site bylaw levy? Do you know what I'm trying to say here? Page 12, I think.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, an off-site levy is an extra property tax that the municipality can put in place for all future development. I'll use an example. You may have 10 large developments going on in your community, and you would ask each of those developers to pay $1,000 each into a offsite levy fund. And then that $10,000 would be used to build the construction of the approaches into each lot. And council would slowly approve the use of that fund to pay for approaches or road access to each development. That's why it's called offsite, because it's actually not, it's a gray area between their property and our road. There's that gray area of the allowance for the approach or the entrance.
Great.
Any further comments, questions? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
And just a comment, I really appreciate the full plan and having the actual backup that they use to do the information. That was very informative. That second package could actually be used as like a welcome to Inuvik, here's all the things you need to know package. So it's, yeah, I really appreciate that. Love seeing what our residents said too in the What We Heard report. I don't have any other issues with the plan. I'm glad that I was able to give my feedback and that to see that parts of it were included, and so yeah, just happy that we're moving forward with a new plan, although it is fairly similar to the old plan, but I think that these tend to be that way and that they're, you know, they're not item based, they're more community wide, so just appreciate the work that's gone into it, and yeah, look forward to having the plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? We'll have first reading on that on Wednesday night. 9.5, zoning bylaw. Again, first reading. Any questions?
Anybody?
Comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
So unfortunately, I haven't had time to read the zoning bylaw yet. Is there anything of note that we need to know about that are major changes or anything from the previous version? I don't know.
SEO Travis.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, no, I haven't seen any major revisions
Okay.
since the last one.
Thank you.
Any further comments? None. Department head reports. Not tonight, huh? Information items, we have strategic priorities chart. Any comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just a comment that I would like to see Mr. Mayor set up a update to the chart in the new year with all of us, so we could,
I'm sorry, on the what?
on the chart, the strategic priorities chart. There I know some accomplished items, and with only, 10 months left in our term, we might wanna just knock it down to the few things that we wanna see done in the next little while here. Hopefully that's something we can do in the new year.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Anything further? Item 12, council concerns. Councillor Wayman.
Just like to go back to action item on 7.1. I missed that there. But on the commissioner's land thing, I mean, I don't understand, like, if it's in our community and they want us to survey it, but how do we sell land if we can't have our own land within our municipal boundaries? I mean, I've read this same rules for, well, it says 30 years, at least, I've read it for 30 years too, so as they talk to you about changing this, or, because I mean, as it is now, it's wide open for anyone to come into our community and get land. Why is the town not in control of this? And how are we gonna get in control of this? Because we can't offer to sell this land, but it's open to anyone in the public who can survey it. I mean, what's the point of having a municipality boundaries?
SAO Travis, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Wayman. So the municipality has first right on all commissioners' land. So if someone else is trying to acquire commissioners' land, actually the GNWT would have to contact us first to see if we have a wish for that land first. So the project that we've undertaken is to take all of the land within our boundary and break it up into pieces. And over time, as we are able to, we can't acquire it unless we survey it. We can't get that land for $1 unless we survey it. And surveying is very expensive. So the recommendation to us from the GNWT was to break it up into chunks, into big chunks of land that match our new community plan, and then lease each of those chunks for 30 years. And then over that 30-year period, we'll develop a budgeting process with council and find funding to slowly start surveying. As it's surveyed, you can convert it from the lease to our own actual municipal land. Unless it's surveyed, we can't do the direct transfer. The in-between step is to lease it, and then we can fund the surveying over time. Because otherwise I'd have to come to council in a very expensive budget request to start surveying all that land, and that would be a huge estimate is what I'm told. So we'll do it over time.
So with today's technology of drone surveying, we can't get out there and survey the municipality?
We can certainly do that.
I can't see how that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's just one of the options. Is that an option?
We could put an RFP out and get
I know it's you're securing the land, but it's just that how do we sell so we lease land for 30 years and it's an in-turn thing to tie it up, which is good. But if people want to buy land, then are we putting the onus of surveying it on them?
If they were to apply for commissioner's land and we didn't want it, yes, they would have to survey it.
Deputy Mayor Kolkowski, you got a comment?
Just as a recent example, when the CSGSI site, the privately owned satellite site, when they wanted to expand behind them, they paid for all that surveying behind their land. After asking if the town wanted the land, and then there was an agreement formed, they paid the surveying, and then I think we bought the land for $1 and then sold them the land or something like that, but they did look after the survey costs.
Further?
I just want to secure our community. I mean, I just see a lot of open doors here. Like there's land right in town that we can buy, which we should be securing from inside out and looking at it a little broader, you know what I mean? A lot of people want to buy a country residential, not available. But there's land right in town that Mac owns that people can actually buy right now. That's what we should be looking at, starting from the inside out and getting this covered. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
Anything further?
I have one item further.
Yes.
Your worship. So Councillor Wayman, we're on it. We have started a project. We have a contact that's working with us from the GNWT. The tricky part is to be able to demonstrate to them on each application that we put in what our need for that land is. So we're trying to match that to our new community plan at the same time. And I think we pretty much covered that, like we're trying to align the blocks of land, whether it should be commercial, residential, or country residential. And just on that note, with respect to the stuff that we are trying to sell that's in our inventory now, if you go on to realtor.ca tonight, when you get home, take a look at Inuvik, you're gonna start seeing some for sale dots on that map when you go on to realtor.ca. And that's our realtor for Remax starting to list our property so that we're on the market and people know we're in business and have property for sale. I just got another 40 contracts today in my email to approve so that those same flags can go on the Google Maps of all the properties that are for sale on realtor.ca. So I encourage you to take a look at it. It's really exciting and it's gonna put our community on the stage that we're open for business and we have land available for people who want to purchase.
Just as a further aside, Councillor Wayman, it was after a discussion that actually you and I had quite a few months ago about Commissioner's Land that I went in and asked SAO Travis if he could get started on this process. So yes, we are making progress.
All right, good show. I just want to, like I said, I see our municipal boundaries. I just want them to be secure. Thank you.
Struck me the same way, so thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, I need a motion to go in camera. Councillor Gallons and Councillor Wayman, so we'll give 5 minutes to clear the room and we'll have our in-camera session. Thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, I think it's just myself, David and Steve.
Thanks, guys.